Hey everyone, Coral System here. So, I was planning on making this video a little bit ago, but I've been pushing it off. But, I picked up my, what's it called? I picked up my treatment plan from my, therapist. Not therapist, she's my psychologist. I have a psychologist and a psychiatrist who's a trauma specialist, and I picked up my treatment plan because I wanted to do a video talking about what it looks like for some to have a treatment plan for someone with DID. I do not have a bullet point, so I'm all like sheets, so I'm all over the place right now. So usually what they do on these is it has my legal information at the top, so I'm not going to show it because I don't want to black it out. They do have my gender as transgender in here for some reason. But I thought I'd take a gander. So usually they have a statement in here. So like they have discharge criteria, which I was never, when it says discharge criteria, it talks about like therapy, because technically when you enter therapy, they can't count you as like admitting to be in that program, in the therapy. So when you're discharged, it just means you don't need therapy anymore. It's not like a hospitalization program. That's why under problem next to discharge criteria, it says NA for non-applicable, because I'm not in a hospitalized treatment program. I'm just seeing a therapist. So one of the discharge criteria for this is Kai, and then it has my given name, will be referred to as Kai in documentation along with pronouns of he, him, or they, them. Will be assessed for completion of treatment services upon ability to successfully manage post-traumatic stress disorder, gender dysphoria, and my DID for 8+ consecutive weeks as evidenced by improved mood, improved focus, and no suicidal thoughts as measured by self-reports and an in-session observation. And then if medications are prescribed to me, they will be transferred to appropriate medical provider at time of discharge. At the moment, I'm not on any psychiatric medications because I show no signs of psychosis or need for immediate medications. They do not have me on any psych meds until my neurologist figures out the causes of my seizures. Because if I do have epilepsy, they want to make sure none of the medications they would prescribe me interfere with that. But since they're leaning towards me having psychogenic seizures, in the future they can prescribe me medication, but I'm not in an emergency risk right now, so that's why my treatment plan doesn't mention medications. Because they deemed that I function pretty, they have me labeled as high functioning without medications. Kai is experiencing symptoms of gender dysphoria, including identities as transgender, strong desire to be of the other gender, strong desire to wear masculine clothes. Just talking about me having bodily dysphoria. And so they diagnosed me with gender dysphoric disorder, which I have to they put that diagnosis so that when they write it off, it can be easier for me to transition, because there's documented evidence of ongoing need for transition. Because in my state, you cannot transition without the diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Kai has symptoms of PTSD, such as nightmares, panic-like symptoms, and negative thinking patterns, which may be elevated and or improved by psychiatric services. And then it also says under here, under PTSD, sleep disturbance, negative thinking patterns, low self-esteem, difficulty experiencing positive emotions, flashbacks, nightmares, intense recollections of trauma, dissociation, and trying to make sure you guys don't see my legal name. panic-like symptoms which interferes with their daily function. So it just talks about the major symptoms I have of my PTSD, so that they can, on the next page, talk about their plan and goals for me. It also, treatment plans usually have strengths and difficulties. Strengths, they have me down for resilient. I actually haven't read through this yet. Fun fact. Apparently they have me listed as resilient in embracing advocacy for self. This is also listed, I got this treatment plan in May. My therapist is writing up a new treatment plan now, which I will make a new video talking about the updates to see if I've improved in anything. And then strengths relational is, I've apparently identified positive relationships as being important, so I'm less of a bitch than I thought, I guess. Okay, and then they have a problem sheet. I really wish I could show you this. Maybe I'll scratch it off and like show it at a different time. When I get the new one, I will. They have, so it's listed as problems addressed, goal statement, and then review remarks. So, damn, I just read forward and they like talk deep about my trauma, so that's fun. Problem addressed, process and integrate past experience. Kai is experiencing symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, including sleep disturbances, dissociation, panic, recollections of trauma. Yeah, thank you. We've already established that. Goal, reduction of trauma-related symptoms and AMP reactivity. So the goal for that would be for PTSD is to minimize my PTSD symptoms so that I can function day-to-day life, because as of right now, I do not function in the slightest. During this review period, I attended 8 out of the 9 Skype things, like the therapy sessions. I continue to have intense recollections of trauma, panic-like symptoms, sleep disturbance, and difficulty experiencing positive emotions. And then it talks about my health issues, which we have reason to believe that some of my health issues were a result of my CSI. So that's been a contributing factor to some of my goals in my PTSD, because it's a contributing factor to my physical health. Has led to me being diagnosed recently with depression, which isn't too uncommon with people who are diagnosed with a chronic illness, because you have to go through a process of grieving your goals and everything, because it's a major change in your life and it leads to a lot of issues. I have chronic pain. I have a lot of issues. So that is another goal that we're working on, is coping with my physical disabilities, and also working through, because some of my physical disabilities are common for victims of CSA, working through the trauma-related aspect of it too, so that I'm able to function with it a bit better. Other things, objective statements, so it's like another thing of goals, how to reach your goals. I will identify and implement 3 coping strategies to utilize when feeling intense emotions or experiencing intrusive memories to bring them back into the present moment, and report on successful and barriers to implementation as measured by self-report. So, sorry, I was just rereading that. So it means that I will work on 3 strategies to help me when I'm having a PTSD flashback or intrusive thoughts, to bringing me back to the present and grounding myself. because at the time this was made, I had no grounding techniques. So far, I have done, I think, 2 out of the 3 strategies. Music as a grounding technique, and tactile. So touching fuzzy things, playing with sensory toys to ground myself. No, the second one wasn't, the first one actually wasn't music, it was the 5 senses. So 5 things you see, 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And it helps you ground because you're using all your senses. Okay, and then it says, Kai has difficulties staying in the present and not switching out between alters. They are also noticing how when feeling certain emotions, I have difficulties going nonverbal when I am overloaded. So instead of shutting down completely, we're trying to figure out barriers to implement, and coping strategies so that I don't have, when I am going nonverbal, I don't shut down completely into a meltdown. Some of the treatment plan that I do have to revolve around my autism, because when you have PTSD and have autism, it makes things a little bit more tricky. When I go nonverbal, and I'm in overload, but also something is triggering me with my PTSD, I don't have the ability to communicate what's going on to my partner or to my therapist. So one thing we are working on is strategies. So instead of me getting even more frustrated when I'm nonverbal and in these states, I shut down completely and just either dissociate or switch out. So instead of that happening, strategies so I can work on it so I can have some form of communication. One of the strategies I found is I downloaded an app on my phone so I can type in stuff and it says it out loud. And that's a good thing that's been helping me and my partner communicate when I'm having issues with being nonverbal, so I don't completely shut down out of frustration. And I haven't really been able to find much strategies for switching out between alters, but my therapist and I are trying to work on that. I've also been doing CBT to work on the PTSD aspects, because some of the PTSD has led me to develop some certain phobias. Sorry. So CBT is something that can help with phobias and also behavior that has happened as a result of PTSD. And then this is what talking about one of the goals of I will be just me going to therapy at scheduled times. So the goal is that my therapist will meet with me at least 1 time per month for individual psychotherapy sessions lasting 30 to 60 minutes in length, or as tolerated by the client. If I get overloaded, I always have the right to stop the session. She will assist me with processing and integrating traumatic experiences through various therapeutic approaches. So it's her saying that I will meet with her once a month for psychotherapy to help with integrating and not finding traumatic experiences. I know my trauma, but more integrating it and getting all of my memories back. And working with communication between alters with the barriers so that I can control my DID a bit better. Review remarks. They can write little notes at the bottom. So the review remark for that one is: writer engages Kai with unconditional positive regard, psychoeducation regarding PTSD diagnosis and trauma response, active listening, and providing supportive feedback. So it's her saying techniques to help me. I'm really bad with criticism. I accept criticism, but still it can trigger me. So it's her saying that she takes a more positive approach and a more validating approach so that I don't shut down. And by positive, she doesn't mean that she'll never criticize me. It's just more when I'm talking about PTSD symptoms, she's going to be more positive about it and more validating about it when talking to me and helping me with it. It's not like she's not positive all the time. She does call me out when I do shit wrong, luckily. And then it talks about medication management, but since I'm not on medication at the moment, that's kind of blank. Again, when I get the updated sheet, which she's writing at the moment, since this was taken in the middle of my psych eval, but it was after, so when I first started, I was evaluated for psychotic disorders and dissociative disorders. And when they were doing it, after they ruled out psychosis disorders and also personality disorders, they did test me for those. After they ruled those two out, and they found that I did meet criteria for the dissociative disorder, which is DID, because I was already previously diagnosed with OSDD because they couldn't track how much amnesia. But in that time, with my two therapists communicating, they had found a significant chunk of amnesia. That's when they switched me over from OSDD to DID. So this was made after they did that, but before they finished absolutely everything, because they didn't test me for. They did a quick evaluation for mood disorders. And this doesn't account for my mania, which they did rule out that the mania and stuff didn't interfere with my other disorders. So they're making a new treatment plan, especially since they want to start me on medications soon for my insomnia and anxiety meds. They want to start me on. So they're making up a new treatment plan. So when I get that treatment plan, I will make another video. I just wanted to make this video because I promised it, and I do want to talk about what treatment plan for DID looks like. Kai has symptoms of PTSD. We realize that, and then they list all of the symptoms of PTSD that I have. Kai will participate in medication therapy safely and successfully to manage psychiatric symptoms as evidenced by self-report, which just means that I voice I have issues with PTSD. They validate that I have issues with PTSD. Prescriber assessment and therapist observation of sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night, improved thinking patterns, and ability to manage panic-like symptoms at least 3 times per week. So, yeah, one of the goal statements is medications for insomnia so that I'll be able to sleep at least 7 to 8 hours per night, because right now I'm about 2 to 3 hours. Sometimes I can sleep 8 hours when I take a melatonin, but I have nightly insomnia, and it's worse when I'm having periods of mania. I will give a trigger warning for miscarriages right now, because my treatment plan does briefly mention that due to my endometriosis. During this review period, Kai was interested in moving forward with psychiatric evaluation. However, when the nurse manager called to schedule the appointment, Kai declined, citing concerns medications might cause a miscarriage. Kai recently had laparoscopic surgery and learned that they have severe endometriosis, and that is the main cause of the miscarriages, not medication. Therefore, Kai is willing to engage in psychiatric evaluation and explore medications options for management symptoms. So what they're talking about is, in the period, it took about 2 weeks for me to set up the appointment and and say I want psychiatric evaluation. and for them to call me to set up the appointment. In those 2 weeks, I found out that I was pregnant. And so when they called me to set up the appointment, I voiced my concerns that if I started psychiatric medication, I was very scared that I'd have another miscarriage because I already had one the year before. And it was just the end of my first trimester when I lost my first pregnancy. And this was my second one. I ended up making that pregnancy to 3 weeks. And then, unfortunately, I had what's called a chemical miscarriage, like a chemical pregnancy, which means that, unfortunately, because I still had the birth control in my arm, and I was still on other medications, what happened is the baby rejected itself, and I suffered my second miscarriage. I've only had 2. That was my second one. So after I found out that I miscarried, I called the psychiatrist back, either psychiatrist or psychologist. The medicine doctor is what I usually call her. I called her back and said that I wanted to start psychiatric medications for my insomnia and for my anxiety. Kai will attend all scheduled psychiatric appointments and take medications as prescribed once I start the medications. And writer needs to update psychiatric evaluation and submit it to a supervisor. Because at the time they finished the psych eval, but they had to write this up, and they said that they needed to update the psych eval because they were working with the old one when they were writing this. So they needed to update it and send it to the supervisor. That's why they made a note in here to update the psych eval. So when I get the other one. My medicine doctor will meet with me at least quarterly for medication management sessions and establish a medication regimen as necessary to assist me with management of symptoms. And then review Merck has yet to meet with me because when I went to schedule and start medications, they said that they needed to talk to my neurologist first. I needed to send a HIPAA form so they could talk to my neurologist and talk back and forth. And then this one is just saying that I keep on calling her a therapist. She's not a therapist. She's a trauma specialist and she's a psychiatrist, I think. That's what they're called. She's not a therapist. She'll meet with me monthly to check in on how effective the medications are. So that's what that means. I really wonder why they put my, gender as trans. That's an odd thing to do. It says my intake is at 12 a.m. Why did they write this at midnight? Okay. Okay, and that's just, a bunch of, notes. And then, everyone, the supervisor, MD, and then my psychologist. She's a psychotherapist. Well, she does psychotherapy, but I forget the technical term, I'm sorry. I just call her a trauma specialist because she's a trauma specialist, but I forget the name of her because she's not technically a therapist. But that is what a treatment plan can look like. Not all treatment plans are the same; they're individualized. But that's what it can look like for DID because it also talks about It also talks about integration, controlling alters PTSD symptoms. Because if you wanna work on DID, you really need to hound in on the PTSD symptoms, which is why so much of my treatment plan revolves around PTSD and my symptoms of PTSD. So that's really it. If anyone has any questions, I'm not a professional, but I can try to answer any questions to the best of my ability, and if I don't know the answer, I can look up resources where you can try to find a good answer to it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to be making another video very soon about my endometriosis, actually. And I'm sorry this video is a little different than normal, but I hope this kind of gave you a good insight into treatment plans, especially treatment plans for symptoms. Not symptoms, I'm sorry. Treatment plans for systems, DID or OSDD systems. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.